Kanye West didn't just wake up one day and start ranting about his daughter North's future. This wasn't some random outburst. It was years in the making, years of watching the Kardashian machine turn women into brands, and now, in his eyes, they're doing it again, but this time with his 12-year-old daughter. And the trigger? A dinner in Rome. One outfit, one appearance, and suddenly the internet exploded. North West stepped out in Rome with Kim, rocking a corset-style top, long blue braids, and chunky platform boots. She looked more like a young model headed to a runway than a kid grabbing dinner with her mom. To some fans, it was cute, harmless fun, but to others, especially Kanye and his supporters, it was a red flag. A major one. She's 12, they shouted online. Let her be a kid. That moment opened a floodgate. It wasn't just about the outfit, it was about everything it represented. Because here's the thing, Kanye had been warning about this exact moment for years. Back in 2020, in the middle of one of his infamous Twitter spirals, he made a promise. I put my life on God that North's mom would never do Playboy with her. That's not a normal thing to say lightly. He was scared, terrified actually, that history was going to repeat itself. Kim did Playboy, Kylie did Playboy, and to Kanye, none of that was a coincidence. He believed Kris Jenner orchestrated it all, starting with her own daughter and continuing the cycle with the next. Now it looked like North was next in line. Kanye didn't keep these thoughts to himself either. He texted Kris Jenner directly, begging her not to push North down that same path. And when Kris privately asked him to stop mentioning her name because the stress was too much for her, he posted the message online. There's no middle ground with Kanye. Once he's fired up, it's all out in the open. Now here's where it gets even messier. People love calling Kanye out for being a hypocrite, and they've got receipts. They pull up old photos of Kim in extremely revealing outfits, looks that Kanye himself styled and approved. Remember that wet latex dress Kim wore that practically broke the internet? That was Kanye's idea. He was the mastermind behind many of her most sexualized public appearances. In fact, he used to hype it all up. The sex appeal, the shock value, the headlines. But somewhere along the way, something changed. By 2019, at the Met Gala, Kanye told Kim he felt uncomfortable with her looking too sexy in public. That was the same man who'd spent years shaping her into exactly that image. Naturally, Kim was confused and pissed. She reminded him that he built her into that confident woman, the one who embraced fashion and sexuality. Now suddenly he was trying to tone her down? It wasn't just a personal shift, it was a spiritual one. Kanye had started talking more about God, more about family values, and less about the music industry chaos he once thrived in. That's when he started building his own school, the Donda Academy, a place where, in his words, his kids could be free from the system, a place where he could shape the environment, the values, and most importantly, protect them from the fame-hungry Kardashian orbit. But Kanye, North wasn't just dressing up, she was being recruited into the same family formula that turned her mom into a brand, then her aunt, and now maybe her. And that's why Kanye exploded when he saw that Rome outfit. It wasn't just a fashion choice, it was a sign, a signal that his nightmare might already be coming true. Kris Jenner didn't invent the spotlight, but she definitely figured out how to weaponize it. From Kim's early controversies to Kylie's transformation into a billionaire, Kris had always known how to turn whispers into headlines. And to many people, that's the real issue. They don't just see North as a kid caught up in fashion, they see her as the next phase of a very calculated legacy, one built on carefully crafted images, controversy, and a relentless obsession with staying relevant. So when North walked into that restaurant in Rome, it wasn't just the outfit people noticed. It was the cameras, the angles, the styling. Everything screamed photo op, and not in a casual family dinner way. It looked staged, intentional, like a page from Kris Jenner's playbook. And it was deja vu for a lot of people who had been watching this family for years. First, it was Kim, then Kylie, now North. But here's where it gets complicated. Kim Kardashian has said on record that she never actually wanted to do Playboy. She admitted she was scared, nervous, unsure. It was Chris who pushed her. Chris told her it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, that no one knew who she was yet, that the pictures would be something to look back on when she was older, and Kim, like so many daughters trying to make their mom proud, said yes. The results? Explosive. The show took off. The family name became a brand, and Kim's regret? It followed her for years. She later said she wasn't proud of it, that she wouldn't want her own daughter doing the same. But here's the thing about cycles. They don't break just because someone says they want to. They break when someone actively steps in and disrupts them. And to Kanye, that someone was supposed to be him. He saw Chris as the mastermind behind it all, the architect of a machine that turned young women into marketing tools. He didn't trust her, not one bit, and even less when it came to parenting decisions. That's why he tried to take control of North's education, her wardrobe, even her exposure to the public. That's why he built Donda Academy, to give his kids a different path, one without flashing lights and staged paparazzi moments. But Kim didn't sign up for that vision, and the result? Total chaos. Now people are picking sides. Some say Kim is following Chris's strategy, step by step parading North in designer looks to maintain her own relevance. They believe Kim's spotlight is fading and she's using her daughter to hold on to the fame. Others say Kanye's no better, that he's not some protective dad, that he's using North as leverage in his never-ending feud with Kim and Chris. To them, this isn't about protection, it's about control. And then there's the middle ground, the people who say both parents are in the wrong, that North is being pulled in opposite directions by two people more focused on each other than on her well-being. She's only 12, and yet every outfit, every hairstyle, every public appearance is dissected by millions. She didn't choose this life. She didn't ask to be a talking point. She was born into a war zone, dressed like a red carpet. What's worse is that it's happening in real time. She's not a grown-up looking back. She's a kid living through it now. And the internet doesn't forget. Every photo, every headline, every viral comment will still be floating around years from now, long after childhood should have been something simple, quiet, safe. But for North, that version of life might never have existed in the first place. Kanye's biggest fear wasn't about fashion or fame, it was about identity. He knew the power of media because he'd played that game better than almost anyone. But he also knew how it stripped people down, turned them into content, and left nothing untouched. To him, North wasn't just a daughter, she was the soul he had to shield, even if it meant going to war with the very family he once called his own. But in the public's eyes, Kanye wasn't always the savior he claimed to be. People remembered the contradictions. The same man who begged to protect North from sexualized media once orchestrated Kim's most revealing magazine covers. He was the creative force behind many of her boldest looks, and even with Bianca Censori, his current wife, Kanye is reportedly the one styling her in nearly see-through outfits that draw just as much criticism. The bare feet, the futuristic see-through bodysuits, the strange public appearances, those weren't Bianca's ideas, they were his. So when Kanye yells about how North should be protected, people can't help but look sideways, not because he's entirely wrong, but because he's been on both sides of the line. He built the machine and now he's trying to tear it down. And maybe that's what makes the situation so messy. There is no clear villain, just two powerful, deeply flawed parents fighting over how a child should be raised. One in the name of protection, the other in the name of independence. Kim on her end insists that she's just letting North express herself. She's posted TikToks with her daughter, allowed her to perform on stage at Kanye's shows, and even admitted she's trying to give North some normalcy. But critics argue that you can't call it normal when you're giving your 12-year-old front row seats to adult fame, when she's styled like a celebrity, chased by cameras, and curated for the public like a brand in training. The line between expression and exploitation gets blurry fast. The truth is, North might not fully understand the weight of the spotlight she's under. At 12, she's probably just having fun, playing dress up, feeling empowered, being creative. But the adults in her life know exactly what happens when childhood gets traded for clicks. And that's why the internet keeps circling back to the same question: who's really protecting North? Because while Kanye is loud, dramatic, and often over the top, his fears aren't entirely unfounded. Kim herself admitted that she regrets her Playboy shoot. She's acknowledged how hard it is being scrutinized for every move, every photo, every outfit, and if she knows how harsh the spotlight is, why put her daughter in it so young? Fans are starting to say it out loud now. North is being molded. Not by accident, not by chance, but by design. From her performances to her outfits, every move seems to inch her closer to the path her mom once walked. And to some, that feels more like marketing than motherhood. There's no clean ending here. North West is still growing up in front of our eyes. And the truth is, we don't know how this story will turn out. Maybe she'll rise above it all and find her own voice, her own path. Or maybe she'll be another name added to the list of child stars who grew up too fast, too exposed, too curated. One thing is certain, childhood isn't supposed to be a battleground. But for North, that's exactly what it's become. Between parents with competing visions, a public that won't look away, and a legacy she didn't choose, she's been handed a script no kid should have to read. And everyone's watching to see what happens next.